Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 10. The River Styx. In Greek mythology, the Styx was a river separating the earthly plane from that of the underworld. The only way to physically enter the realm of the dead was to be ferried across the river by Charon in his boat. The water of the river was so poisonous that any mortal would die upon touching it. It was so dangerous that it was even able to harm the gods themselves. What may surprise you is that the River Styx is a real place. Or rather, it was based on a very real stream called the Mavroneri. Just recently, a pair of American researchers named Adrian Mayer and Antoinette Hayes did some research on this ancient body of water. They did several tests and discovered that the Mavroneri likely contained deadly bacteria 2,000 years ago. The deadly bacteria could have made people who came into contact with the water sick, which might have given the stream its legendary status. Even more shocking is that the researchers believe the water from the stream was used to poison Alexander the Great in 323 BC. The Macedonians would have known that the water was deadly, and it would have been extremely easy to poison someone since it was just water. Adrian and Antoinette's theory is that someone in Alexander's close circle was providing him with a constant supply of tainted liquid. It then led to his slow and agonizing death before he could ever conquer the world. Number 9. The Well to Hell. Urban legend has it that a group of geologists working in remote Siberia drilled a hole 9 miles into the earth. Supposedly, the team of scientists wanted to see if the earth was hollow. They were sure that they could break through into the hollow center of the earth like sticking a needle into an egg. They used all the latest technologies to drill deeper than anyone else has ever drilled before. They allegedly drilled so deep that they broke into hell itself. The geologists measured unbelievable temperatures of several thousand degrees, and they even lowered a sensitive microphone into the well. Much to their terror, their microphone picked up the gut-wrenching screams of millions or even billions of tortured souls. Nobody's sure exactly where the myth came from, but it was propagated heavily by Christian groups in the late 1980s and 1990s. The truth is that Russian scientists most likely didn't really break into hell. The official story is that in 1984, they drilled an experimental well in Russia's Kola Peninsula and managed to reach almost 9 miles deep, but not quite. Researchers found strange rock formations, flowing gas, subterranean water, and fairly normal temperatures of only a few hundred degrees. In 1989, the Trinity Broadcasting Network ran a story presented as real news in which they claimed scientists discovered hell. This story continued over the years and was even published in tabloids in 1992. As the story changed, it got even more dramatic. One rendition was that the well to hell was drilled in Alaska, and 13 workers were killed when the devil came out of the ground. Number 8. Waipio Valley. The Waipio Valley of Hawaii is home to demons and demigods. It's located on the Big Island and is considered one of the most sacred places in all of Hawaii. It's a remote valley fed by multiple waterfalls pouring endless torrents of water down steep cliff faces to flow throughout the valley and into the ocean. It was here that the ancient Hawaiian kings ruled the lands, living in grand palaces among the beautifully calm scenery and green trees. The valley is home to many stories from Hawaiian legends, including the tale of Kamohoali'i, the shark god. The legendary portal to Lua'aumilu, the Hawaiian land of the underworld, can be found here as well. Tradition states that when a person dies, their soul would journey to the Waipio Valley and leap from one of the tall cliffs. Rather than hit the water below, they would pass straight through a subterranean portal that would take them down to the realm of the dead. It's believed the entrance was buried long ago under sand deposits and erased by the ocean tides. What's truly amazing is that the subterranean tunnel may really have existed. Scientists have already confirmed the Hawaiian Islands are slowly sinking, and that with time they will disappear altogether. Chances are, the legendary portal to the underworld was nothing more than a volcanic tube at the bottom of a cliff. It must have looked like a very real gateway to hell for the Hawaiians. There is also a strong possibility the hole has already been filled in by dirt and water and will never be seen again. Number 7. Tenarum. The ancient Greek city of Tenarum, located on Cape Matapan at the very tip of Greece, was considered the mythical gateway to Hades during antiquity. According to legend, the city was originally founded by Taenarus, who was the son of Zeus, or the son of Poseidon. The myth has changed so much over the years that nobody is entirely sure which is correct. In reality, Tenarum was likely constructed by a group of people known as the Helots, who were conquered and subjugated by the Spartans. They erected multiple temples dedicated to gods like Poseidon and Apollo, and a cult worshipping Poseidon soon sprang up here as well. However, the main feature of the ancient city is a cave-like temple, which was believed to be the portal to the realm of the dead. The cave temple appears everywhere in Greek mythology. It's the same gateway from which Hercules descended into the underworld to fight the three-headed Cerberus. It was also the portal where legendary Orpheus walked into the underworld to try and bring his wife Eurydice back to the land of the living. Hades said it would be fine if Orpheus led her back to the surface, but he was not allowed to turn around and look at his wife until they were outside. Orpheus couldn't help himself and peeked behind him to make sure his wife was indeed following, and then she was dragged back down into the underworld for eternity. Number 6. Mount Osore. Mount Osore in Japan, also called Fear Mountain, is the location of a legendary gateway to hell. The mountain itself is the result of major volcanic activity on the Shimokita Peninsula. The whole area is a volcanic hotspot, with volcanoes over the centuries turning the scenery into something quite shocking. Buddhist monks at the local Bodaiji temple claim the landscape around Mount Osore matches their version of hell and paradise exactly. The Japanese idea of life after death is not so different from other cultures. The monks believe that when a person dies and their spirit is released from their body, it flies to the mountain. However, before it can reach Paradise Beach at the foot of the mountain, where it will join the other spirits of the dead, it must cross Usoriyama Lake. This lake is seen as the real version of the Japanese Sanzu no Kawa River, which separates life and death. It's almost identical to the idea of the River Styx in Greek mythology. The Sanzu no Kawa must be crossed to reach the realm of the dead on the other side. It's one of the most sacred places in the country, based on the association Japanese have with Mount Osore and their own version of the mythical underworld. The shores of the beach surrounding the mountain are littered with tiny Jizo statues. These were left to help guide unborn babies and recently deceased children to the mountain, where their pure souls will be at rest forever. Number 5. Twins Cave. Twins Cave can be found just outside Jerusalem. Researchers who recently investigated the ancient cave discovered evidence of pagan rituals from the days of the Roman Empire. They believe that whoever was practicing their ceremonies down here in the dark believed the cave was a portal to the underworld. Archaeologists with Bar Ilan University found 42 clay lamps set up along a 70-foot shaft in the cave. These lamps were put there sometime between the 2nd and 4th century AD, likely to help guide the goddess Demeter into the underworld. This was so Demeter could search for her missing daughter, Persephone, who was kidnapped and married to Hades. In the days of Rome, many of their most important ceremonies and rituals mimicked stories from even older Greek legends, and a lot of them involved delving into the underworld. Professor of religion Daniel Showalter says it's impossible to assume that we know what the ancient people really thought. Even if rituals were happening at the site and it was associated with the underworld, Daniel argues the people could have known it was only a cave. They recognized that it was the closest they could get to the underworld. However, they most likely didn't believe it really was a gateway, or that they could wander through the passages and show up in Hades. Number 4. Lacus Curtius. In the city of Rome, there is a ruin called Lacus Curtius, or Lake of Curtius, and it's nothing but a boring slab of stone in the middle of the Roman Forum. The Lacus Curtius was once a tiny lake, a deep chasm filled with water. But it was filled in centuries ago and paved over, and the pool is no longer there. Even during the Roman Republic, prior to the rise of the Roman Empire, the details of the mysterious pool's origins were vague at best. The one story that survived explains that when Rome was first formed, an oracle foretold of the fall of the city. The oracle predicted that the only way for Rome to survive would be for it to sacrifice what it held most dear. A giant pit opened on its own, with a deep passage leading to the Underworld. The passage was meant to be a one-way trip for the Roman sacrifice, and at the time, Rome held their brave young soldiers most dear. The fearless Marcus Curtius, dressed in combat armor, saddled up his horse, and rode down the passage to his death. Following the sacrifice, the pit was filled with water, and for a long time after, it remained in the city as a shimmering portal to the underworld. That's the way the legend goes, but the truth is a lot less interesting. The Roman Forum was originally a swamp. After it was drained in the 7th century, the small pool was likely all that remained of the swamp water. Then, over decades and centuries, legend formed around the pool as Rome grew into a mighty city, and the swamp was forgotten. At some point, the water evaporated, and the hole was sealed by a giant manhole cover. Number 3. St. Patrick's Purgatory. St. Patrick's Purgatory is a cave where one can allegedly see straight into hell. However, you can't visit it right now because it's covered by a monastery. To understand this strange place, let's take a look at Station Island, a small piece of land situated in the middle of a lake in County Donegal, Ireland. Irish legend says that Jesus himself showed St. Patrick a mysterious cave on the island, in which the saint was given terrifying visions of hell. St. Patrick saw all the torments of the afterlife and all the misery hell had to offer in 1 second of pure horror. He was then able to use that cave to turn non-believers into devout worshippers of Christ. St. Patrick brought people into the cavern, and they too experienced the frightening visions of what would happen to them if they denied Jesus Christ from their hearts. Historians aren't sure if St. Patrick was originally involved in the legend or if his name was attached to it later. The monastery on the island, which was supposedly built over the cave to prevent people from getting glimpses of hell, still stands. Most of what's there was built in the 15th century, though there are still some older foundations under the monastery's buildings. Unfortunately, casual visitors are not allowed on the island. People do still make pilgrimages to the site, but you can't go poking around looking for a peek into the fires of hell. Number 2. Hellam Township. In York County, Pennsylvania, there are 7 gates that supposedly lead to hell. This is a more modern legend that comes from Hellam Township, but it's no less terrifying. There are 7 gates on the rural Toad Road, and they look as though they've been there for a very long time. Technically, the gates are on private property, but that hasn't stopped tourists from showing up and seeing if they can't get a free trip to hell while still living. The myth is that if you pass through all 7 gates, you will go straight to hell. Local legend says a mental institution in the township was constructed in the middle of nowhere to keep dangerously insane people secluded in secret. In the early 1900s, a fire broke out, and the mental patients were engulfed in the flames. Some say the gates were put up following the fire to try and trap the few surviving insane inmates in the woods. Number 1. The Batagai Mega Slump. The gateway to the underworld in Siberia is growing. There is currently a huge scar ripped across the Siberian landscape known by locals as the Batagai Mega Slump. They also call it the gateway to the underworld because it looks as if the earth is opening to reveal a hidden passage winding down to hell. A mega slump is a large patch of melted permafrost. As wildfires sweep through Siberia and the air gets hotter, the permafrost melts. It usually starts small and then spreads into a huge patch, or a slump, like a sagging depression in the earth. The biggest is the Batagai Mega Slump. The permafrost here melted too quickly and caused the ground to collapse, leaving a massive hole. This sometimes results in sinkholes, giant pits that can swallow entire towns. In this case, the result is something that looks like a gigantic pit that leads to the underworld. Thanks for watching! Which of these mysterious portals to the underworld would you dare enter yourself? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!